Good, I appreciate that, all right? You know, it looks like Dan Duke, he's got everything else fixed up, a spotlight and everything, and can't turn on the microphone, you know? And I've only been in radio about 8 or 10 years, so I don't know how to do that. Okay, but anyway, we decided to do something big here in February. We got Valentine's Day and the 2 presidents' birthdays and all that, but we wanted to do something really big. And so, you know, we kind of kicked around a few names there for a while, and we said, who is the best person we could have to come to Cleburne? And it was funny because all the names kept coming back to Jerry Clower, the mouth of the Mississippi from Yazoo City. And so we decided on Jerry, asked him over here, and he graciously accepted, and we're glad to have him with us tonight to celebrate agriculture. And a lot of you folks, especially some of you folks out here at front, are some of the agricultural and farming leaders here in the community. And we'd like to welcome all of you and all the folks who are here tonight. And before we bring Jerry out, I want to introduce a couple of guys. You already heard one of them, loud and clear. But first of all, I want to introduce our midday man and also our program director. That's what he tells me he does anyway. At KCLE Radio, Andy Gallo. Andy, would you come out here? Let's give him a big hand whether he deserves it or not.
Jim?
Yeah.
I've never seen so many people in all my life.
Well, I don't know about you, Andy, but I can't see anybody.
Well, the lights are blinding me. I don't know, but I can see heads popping up, you know. And
okay, now, second of all, our afternoon disc jockey, and the guy you heard introduce me so eloquently, is a guy by the name of John Summers. John, come on out here. Let's give old John a big hand. Now, you two guys have, you two guys are kind of comedians, right? And you've worked up something to bring Mr. Clower out, right? Okay, right?
Did you work up something, John? Huh? You didn't do anything?
He's always doing
Well,
this.
I want to tell you something. I was backstage just a few moments ago, and I was talking with Jerry, and he was telling me a few jokes and stuff.
Yeah, one about Marcel Ledbetter, right?
Well, something like that, yeah. But
Uh-oh.
He's fixing to knock you boys out.
I think that we're in trouble. I think you're in trouble, John.
I know.
I think you're in trouble.
Wait a minute. Uh-oh. What is that coming behind me?
KCLE presents the mouth of the Mississippi, Jerry Clower. Knock him out, Jerry.
Thank you. Woo! Good gracious. Oh, shoot this thing. My, it's good to be in Cleburne, Texas. Hey, darling. My. I feel like I'm in amongst my own kind. Ag Day. Anytime you want to salute the farmers, anytime you want to salute agriculture, you send for me. I'm qualified to get in on that. I growed up on a farm. I got a degree in agriculture from Mississippi State University. I'm the only member of the world-famous Grand Ole Opry with a degree in agriculture. But the thrilling thing about the American farmer, he does his job better than anybody else. The automobile dealers are in trouble. The manufacturers are in trouble, and that's causing the dealers to have problems, and the computer folks are in trouble and due to foreign competition. But if them foreigners want to know how to farm, they have to come to America. Because the American farmer does it better than anybody else. Nobody else is in his class. So, and I don't know of anything I'd rather be doing than to be helping salute agriculture in Cleburne, Texas. Now, if you growed up country, you ought to holler hallelujah. Now, I ain't disliking no city folks. You know, I'm a Christian. I don't look down my pious nose at nobody. But if you growed up 40 years ago in the country, rejoice, because you was at least 40 years ahead of your time. I get so tickled, I do 200 shows a year all over the world. And I get so tickled at city folks talking about the new fad, the new innovation. And 98% of all the city folks I've met in the last 5 years are trying to buy them a little patch of ground out in the country. and put them a shack on it and run out there every weekend and live like I was forced to live during the Depression. It beats all I ever seen. Did y'all read in the paper the other day where they had some big dinner and give a professor a plaque that due to his research, diligent research, that he had discovered that the solar system, the sun, could be used to heat water? Did you read that in the paper? And 40 years ago, I drawed up a bucket of water and poured the bucket of water in a number 3 wash tub, and Saturday afternoon set it out in the sun, and then Saturday night squatted in the tub and bathed myself. And 40 years later, they give some professor a plaque for figuring that out. Whew. Well, I was doing a show in Chattanooga, Tennessee not too long ago, and swooped down in a big Delta jet, and a lady navigator run up there with a microphone and a TV. Old boy had one of them cameras on his shoulder, and he was scrunching it around and getting it ready. And she said, "Hello, Mr. Clower." I come skipping off of that Delta jet. She said, "Hello, Mr. Clower." Said, "I represent the noon show, and we're on Minicam Live right now." I said, "Hey, everybody." She said, "Mr. Clower, we understand you are the #1 country comic in America. How does it feel to go from a fertilizer salesman to the nation's #1 country comic?" I said, "Feels good." She said, "We also read in your press kit that you are a Christian and you have a happy home where love is. What do you think about the new fad, streaking?" I said, "New fad?" Oh! I said, "You city folks saying that's new? Us country folks been doing that all our life." I said, "There didn't nobody live within 5 miles of my house when I was growing up." She said, "Oh, what did you call it?" I said, "Running naked." I said, "Lady, have you ever played gator at the swimming hole?" She said, "Pardon?" I said, "Darling, us boys used to go down in the pasture, and we'd pull our overalls off and hang them on a willow bush, and we'd all get in a swimming hole and play gator. And one of us would be selected as a gator, and he'd have to catch us. Just like tag, can't catch me. Well, if you couldn't outswim the gator, you had to take to the woods to see could you outrun him. And if you run within sight of a public road, you double back. Because if somebody on the public road had seen you running naked and had sent word to your papa that you seen running naked, you'd have got streaked. And that's what ought to happen to some of these modern day streakers is my papa needs to put that dried brush broom on that soft part right up under there. And it'd go cover themselves up. Whoo, I was in Boston, Massachusetts, doing the theater in the round with Loretta Lynn and Hank Williams Jr. for 9 nights. And you know, us country folks ain't never had it so good. We drew more people than Engelbert Bump'em Dinkum. And while we was up there 9 nights, I stayed at a big hotel, and right next to my hotel was a big mercantile store, and thieves broke into that store 7 nights out of the 9 I was there, and they are stealing overalls. Do you hear me? Denim in Boston is real scarce. It is a new fad for teenagers to wear overalls in Boston. And it done bought up all the denim. If you can steal you a few pair, of denim overalls and put them on the black market, you can get rich. Think of that. It took me 20 years to get out of overalls. Oh, I remember the first pair of dress pants I ever owned. Anything you wore other than overalls when I was a boy was called dress pants. Mama ordered me a pair of khaki breeches from Sears and Roebuck. Oh, man, I was something. Back in them old bad days, days of the Depression. And I remember I was sitting side the road waiting for the mail rider to come. Mama done ordered me them khaki breeches way up north in Memphis, Tennessee. And the day the mail rider come and handed me that brown package through the window, I just squatted in the middle of the road and just opened it up and, wow, just pulled my overalls off and throwed them down. That's all I had on, just overalls. Mama wouldn't let us wear underclothes with overalls because it'd fade on them. And you get you a brand new pair of them blue denim overalls in the middle of the hot summertime, it blew you up pretty good too. So I put on my khaki breeches. Oh, had them buttons on the front. Had a tag right back there. I never did take that tag off. That tag said, tough nut. And I heard somebody yelling, ah! And I looked, and his Marcel Ledbetter come running right out in the middle of the road. Dust is flying everywhere. He said, Jerry, what you yelling about? I said, look at him. Marcel said, them's the prettiest khaki breeches I ever seen in all my life. Said, Jerry, you know what we ought to do? Said, the next time old Tarzan's playing in the picture show, you ought to wear them new khaki breeches, and I'll wear the best I got, and we'll go to town to see old Tarzan. Mail rider said Tarzan's going to be playing 2 weeks from now. Whoa, me and Marcel got ready to go. Day old Tarzan was on in town, I put them khaki breeches on, and we got ready to hitchhike to town and discovered we didn't have a cent, not a red copper dime, not a penny of no kind. And Aunt Pet Ledbetter's mama, Aunt Pet Ledbetter, churned us a pound of butter. Said, boys, you take this to town and don't you take less than 30 cents a pound for it. Well, we walked to town, hitchhiked part of the way, went up and down the street, butter for sale, 30 cents a pound. Nobody would buy it. We sat down on the sidewalk in front of that picture show and started squalling. Them businessmen would walk by and pat us on the head and said, don't cry, little boy. But wouldn't none of them give us 11 cents. That's all it cost to go to the picture show was 11 cents. And about that time, I heard Marcel holler, come on, Jerry, I done sold this pound of butter to the popcorn man in the picture show. I said, what do you get for it? He said, 25 cents. I said, your mama's going to kill us. He said, Mama will just have to kill us. I hear that music starting. Woo! Said old Tarzan's fixing to come out there. Well, we took that 25 cents and bought us 2 show tickets for 22 cents, 11 cents each. Had 3 pennies left. We bought 3 big sticks of candy and went in and sat down about halfway back, and that curtain parted. And that line come up by Metro Go and Mayor. Marcel Ledbetter jumped up about halfway back, said, roar! Roar, you scoundrel, you Tarzan will be out there in a minute and tie you up. While we was watching old Tarzan, they said he's going to be back in 60 days. Man, me and Marcel hitchhiking home said, boy, we going to try to figure out a way to get 11 cents in 60 days. Marcel said, let's get the best possum dog we got. And let's go up yonder in the woods and catch us a bunch of possums and serve to folks that'll pay us fresh, dressed possum. Well, man, we went up there and we was going to catch some of them possums. And dog was just foaming at the mouth. And Marcel said, Jerry, we doing this wrong. We need to go back and get some coon hounds, catch some coons, send the hides off, and sell them. We don't have to dress these possums. And we can eat the coons too. So we went back home and swapped dogs and come back and caught a bunch of raccoons, skinned them, put them on board, sent them to St. Louis, Missouri. 30 days later, we got a check back for a dime, 10 cents. Marcel said, Jerry, let's get that possum dog. So we went possum hunting, and I just been to turn the dog loose, and we heard the freight train coming. Ooh, up through the woods. Marcel said, hold that dog. No, don't turn him loose. Marcel got a coal oil lantern and wrapped a red bandana around it. Made it look blood red, and put one foot on the railing of the train track and one foot on the other railing and started flagging the train. Woo, woo! I said, you gonna get killed. Train gonna run over you. I'm giving him that distress signal. He gonna stop. Every wheel locked. Sparks commenced coming out of one of them rails. Train stopped, and the conductor and the engineer run off, and they jumped off the train and run up out of Marcel, said, oh, sir, where is the emergency? There's a bridge out. Marcel said, we ain't got no emergency. Marcel said, I just wanted to see if either one of you gentlemen would like to buy a possum. Conductor said, you idiot. You mean to tell me you flagged down 100-car banana train express nonstop from New Orleans to Chicago, and you done flagged down an express train, 100 cars of bananas, and then ask us if we want to buy a dad-blame possum? Marcel said, you want one or not? Fella said, well, I hate for this trip to be a total loss. I like possum. How much you want for one? Marcel said, we ain't caught him yet. Well, when they got through running us through them woods, we done lost a dog, everything. Went home, sat down on the back porch steps. Marcel started crying. Jerry said, I'm going to ask God to give me 11 cents. I'm going to pray to God that he'd just give me 11 cents. I said, Marcel, God's fitting to kill you. I said, why don't you pray that God would lead you to a job of work where you can earn yourself 11 cents? Marcel, all right, said, I'll pray that God will let cotton open up early. And he did. I mean, cotton done opened up in late August. And me and old Marcel could pick it too. It's paying 4 bits a hundred in dinner. You folks that didn't go to A&M, that's 50 cents. 4 bits. I could get 300 pounds a day picking cotton. I could get more than that if Mama picked with us. Ooh, we done picked that cotton and we hitchhiked to town. Day old Tarzan is playing. You could get a hot dog and a hamburger and a RC Cola for 15 cents. That's right. I mean, them nickel hamburgers back in, I ain't so sure they ain't better than them dollar ones now. And we went out there and went to the Taste and Sip. Got us a hot dog, a hamburger, and a RC Cola, and run up to him and bought us a show ticket, bought a great big old box of popcorn. And the popcorn man said, "Hello, Mr. Ledbetter." Said, "You have any more of that cheap butter?" Marcel said, "You ain't never buying no more butter from me for no 25 cents a pound, I tell you that." Popcorn man said the show was delicious. Said we put it on hot biscuits, and my wife made a big yaller cake. Said, "Marcel, I'll give you 25 cents for another pound." I don't know you, but you hard of head. That's the way with you city folks. Want us farmers to produce butter that costs 40 cents and sell it to you for 2 bits. I ain't never going to sell no more butter to nobody for 25 cents a pound. Said, in fact, you wouldn't have bought that pound cheap as you did the other day if a cat hadn't have fell in the churn. Oh, I love y'all. I knew I was going to love you before I ever got here. During Christmas holidays, I'm sitting in my den, fire going, and I hear my poodle dog named Freckles scratching to get into me. She's out there in the storage room, and I tell my wife, Homeline, I said, "Homeline, open that door, let old Freckles out." And old Freckles come and run and jumped up in my lap, put her belly down there on my leg, and put her throat and her chin right across my right knee, and just hugged, and just laid just as still as she could. And she didn't move a wiggle, a hair, because she's afraid I'd make her get down. But she'd wall her eyes with her head still, trying to look at me. And I told my wife, I said, "Honey, this dog loves me." And I said, "You know, there ain't a lot of people in the world got no friends." I used to go to BYPU in the Baptist church when I was a boy. That's Baptist Young People's Union. Godly woman in the community was our leader. I wouldn't have cut up in there near about as bad as I did if one day I had known the leader of that group was going to be my mama-in-law. Now, we call it training union now in the Baptist church, and not too long ago on a Sunday night in my adult department that I'm in, we having a program about friends, close friends. The lady said, "I'm so thankful. I must have 1,000 dear close friends." I said, "Lady, how many of them friends would you call at 2 o'clock in the morning and never hesitate to call them, knowing that when the individual answered the phone, they's going to look forward to helping you bear your burden because they love you and they're your friend. And when they said hello and you said who you are, they'd say, 'I'm so glad you called. How can I help you?'" She said, "Good gracious, son. I don't know of nobody I'd risk doing that to." I said, "Lady, you ain't got a friend in the world." And I patted old Freckles and I looked at my wife. I said, "Honey, I'm thankful to God I got a few close friends. But," I said, "you know, you ain't never been loved by no earthly creature until you've been loved by a dog." And I said, "In my next album I cut for MCA Records, the title of it is going to be Dogs I Have Known." Freckles. Freckles is a black French poodle dog. Lady wrote me a letter from Oklahoma, Mississippi, and said, "Mr. Clower, please don't rob me of the blessing I will receive by giving your daughter Katie a full-blood registered poodle dog world famous mama and daddy. This poodle dog's daddy was pure de lit de Maupassant bourgeois Thibodeau. And this dog's mama was Fifi Duleroy Bougie. World famous. Well, anytime you go to discussing something you feel like in your heart you ought to do, you'll get talked out of it. So I didn't ask the soul nothing. I just wrote her and said, we're coming after her. And Mama and Katie went with me. We drove up in Natchez Trace. Got that world famous poodle dog. Thanked that lady, eat supper with her, and drove back. Coming down to Natchez Trace, it come one of them hurricane storms. Oh, wind blowing in the rain, whooping it up. Katie's on the back seat holding this little fluffy, toy black poodle, asking us what she should name it. And my wife said, name it Crazy Trouble. Name it Trouble, for it causing us the trouble of coming up here in the rain after it. And name it Crazy after me, because I got to be crazy to come up here after this thing. But old Freckles loves me. Now, Freckles sits in my lap. I give you $100 if you can throw her in my wife's lap. I'll give you $100 if you can throw her on the couch while my wife's in the room. My wife walked down the hall, and when she gets out of sight, Freckles will do a little tache tap dance on every chair in there. Stand up on the couch on her hind feet and look down the hall. Hear my wife coming, down on the floor she'll get. Old Freckles. I had a bulldog named Mike. I knew old Mike well. I growed up with Mike. My mama get ready to whoop one of us young'uns. She'd have to shut Mike up in the smokehouse. He'd bite her for hitting us. And love, one day the school bus stopped. My brother got off and I didn't get off. I went home with a friend on Friday evening to spend the weekend. Mike took to that bus and run it to the end of the line. Laid down under that school bus. And my mama and my brother Sonny had to hook up a mule and wagon, go over there and arm him up and make him get in that wagon and bring him home. And he grieved and would not eat until he saw me get off the school bus the next Monday evening. That dog loved me. Oh, I knew a dog named Blue. I reckon there's been more stories told about Blue than any other dog in the world, but Uncle Versi Ledbetter had a good one. After his young'uns all left home, Uncle Versi and Aunt Pet went coon hunting with one dog, a dog named Blue. Blue was vicious. I mean, if a dead limb fell out of a tree, he'd attack it. He grabbed it up. And he could handle any one coon by himself. So Uncle Versi and Aunt Pet enjoyed going hunting with old Blue. And one night they was hunting, they was using a possum hunting torch. Am I talking over your head? Take 3 or 4 long pine splinters, fat heart pine splinters. Some people refer to it as fat lighter splinters. And hold it and light the end of them splinters and hold it up over your head and walk through the woods. It'd act as a torch to light your way. I mean, coal oil cost a lot of money, and it was hard to tote a coal oil lamp, but you could get them fat lighter splinters and hold it over your head. And there's coon hunting one dry fall evening. It hadn't rained in 3 months. Everything was powder dry. Old Blue treed up a big oak tree. And Aunt Pet and Uncle Versi was under there. And Uncle Versi said, Pet, hold this torch. I'm going to climb a tree and punch him out. And old Blue is just running a circle around that tree. Oh, just anything. It falls, he attacks it and kills it. And Uncle Versi climbed that tree, and he said, hold the light up a little higher, baby. It's not uncommon for Southern men to call their wife baby. And Uncle Versi said, baby, I can't see to shine his eyes. So there's a stump down there. Get up on that stump and hold the torch up higher. Well, that old tree was just reeking with dry moss. Just dry powder, dry moss hanging everywhere. And Aunt Pet tiptoed up, hold the light higher, baby. And that torch caught that dry moss afire, and it just covered that tree, started leaping up the tree. Uncle Versi squalling, ah! Hold old blue, hold old blue. Lord have mercy. Ever where I go, I'm asked a lot of questions. And one of the first questions is, Jerry, is Marcel Ledbetter real? Answer is yes, Marcel Ledbetter is real. I love him very much. He is a dear friend of mine. They say, well, Jerry, did you ever play football at Mississippi State like your album says? Answer is yes, I did play. I never played high school football. I always had to work, and we didn't have a high school football team. There wasn't but 8 seniors in the class I graduated in. I finished high school with 7 other folks. And you can imagine the physical facilities we had. If we'd have wanted to have a football team in the first place. And we played basketball on a dirt court. Actually, on a dirt court. And, I wanted to play football, though. So when I got out of the Navy, I went to Mississippi State University. And went out for football. And the first college football game I ever saw, I played in it. That's the truth. I played against Baylor in the Southwest Conference. I mean, we played them at Mississippi State. My senior year. I mean, Adrian Burke and Ray Mayfield and folks like that. I remember some of them named. Isbell was a running back. And since I got out of Mississippi State, I'm a football fanatic. I just love keeping up with it. I like to express my undying gratitude to all of you Aggies for furnishing Emory Ballard for Mississippi State. Because since we had him, we ain't been nothing but to a bowl game every year. And that show is nice. Ooh, I love taking them trips to them bowl games and eating that baked goose and apple jelly. Whooping up on Kansas on national television like we did in the Hall of Fame Bowl this year. And I have been out here to see some football games. Back when I was selling fertilizer, I remember I caught the plane and I needed to call on a fella out in the feedlot country when Mississippi State just happened to be playing Texas Tech. If you ain't that smart, you ain't got no business selling. And we got out there, and, Texas Tech, I never had heard much about it, but I got out there and got up in that big stadium, and I said, good gracious alive, what a huge school. And I'm sitting up there, and that place just fills up. Mississippi State's playing Texas Tech, and I'm looking at the program just for the kickoff, and I get to looking, and I punch this fella by me. I said, what's Zorro doing down yonder? He said, who? I said, I see him right yonder, Zorro. He said, that's the Red Raider. I said, what does he do? He said, if Texas Tech scores, I'll show you. He said, every time we score, we shoot a cannon, and that Red Raider comes out of that boogity-boogity right around this field. So, man, we is playing. We done squared off now. The rules are in the Southwest Conference, they furnish 2 officials, and the Southeastern Conference furnishes 2 officials. And my buddy from Tupelo, Mississippi, Butch Lambert, was the head linesman. I flew out there with him on the airplane. And the game was underway, and it was late in the first quarter, and Texas Tech is down on the 5-yard line. And let me see now, a quarterback named Madledge took the football and handed it to a fullback named Zanus. And Zanus charged across the 5-yard line, went to the 4. Well, Butch Lambert got wool gathered. He thought he was standing on the goal line. He's standing on the 5. And when the fullback took the ball across the 5-yard line, boom! Boogity, 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 boogity. Here they come. Time out. And Butch Lambert walked over to Coach King. Said, Coach, I done messed up. Said, I thought we was on the goal line, so we're on the 5-yard line. Said, I ain't hurt you. It's still second down on the 4 and goal to go. And I'll stand here and talk to you long enough to give your bunch time to remount and reload. Woo! Lord, and it's still going strong. I was doing a fair out at Amarillo, and they sent word for me, wanted me to talk to the Texas Tech Red Raiders for Rex Dockery, talk to him about winning. And I did, and then he left. And then they got Steve Sloan. Steve Sloan down at Ole Miss. And that folks been whooping him just like whooping a barred mule. And you know, you whoop a barred mule heap quicker than you will your own. And the next question I'm asked, Jerry, you sure are creative. How do you create all of them beautiful stories? Well, the truth is that the funniest things in the world actually happen. It's not things that people may think up could happen. Not too long ago, I'm downtown, and I'm talking to a group of people sitting on the hood of my pickup truck, my Dodge pickup truck. They've been good to me. And my old buddies, I visit with them much as I can. And I'm sitting there with my feet on the bumper of my pickup truck, and a funeral procession starts up the street. So we all get up and get quiet, and just as it gets even with us, I whispered to my buddy, I said, who died? He said, the one in the first car. Well, ain't I creative? I put that story on my last record album, More Good Uns, and Billboard said it's one of the most creative things I've ever done. And I was quoting a man with a 4th grade education that's a welder. One in the first car. Why, when I was a student at Mississippi State University playing football, a traveling salesman from Ackerman, Mississippi, went over to Alabama selling goods, made some calls and got to feeling bad, went to see the doctor and got sick, put him in a hospital, he died. Well, the funeral home at Ackerman, Mississippi sent a hearse over there to pick him up. And they picked him up and was driving back to Ackerman, Mississippi, and they got hungry. They stopped at Columbus to get something to eat at a truck stop. Got done eating, and the driver of the hearse is paying a check. And his assistant goes on out to the hearse. He gets out there to the hearse, and there's a hitchhiker. Sir, I sure do need a ride. Will you let me ride? No, ain't room up in the cab. And there's a dead fella in the back. Hitchhiker said, I sure do need a ride. I wish you'd make some other arrangements. He said, well, now there's a jump seat back there with that dead fella. If you don't mind hunkering down and get back there and sit down with him. He said, I'll lay down back there with him. Don't bother me. I need a ride home. So they opened the back door, and this fella hunkered down and sat down on that jump seat. The assistant driver went up and sat down. Here come the driver, done paid the check by then, sat down, cranked her up, and roared off into the night. Ain't nobody told him about the hitchhiker. 80 miles an hour, that big Superior coach built on that Cadillac chassis is eating up that Prairie Highway. The frost is sparkling on the limbs of the sweet gum tree. Full moon night late in the fall. 80 miles an hour, that needle's just rocking. And about that time, a hand come through the curtain and grabbed the driver by the shoulder. His voice said, "Hey, buddy, is it all right to smoke back here?" And 80 miles an hour, he just opened the door and stepped out. People tell me how creative I am. The funniest things in the world actually happen. Southern folk are naturally humorous. Country people are humorous regardless where they live. If you don't believe it, you go to a country store and stand in there unnoticed. And within 15 minutes, your belly will be hurting from laughing. There's no way I can express my undying gratitude to this fine radio station and its sponsoring Ag Day, honoring agriculture. And I'm real thrilled to be here. I appreciate them playing Country Crossroads, a weekly radio show that I do with Bill Mack. I was just in Fort Worth this morning taping some of those shows. I'd like to express my undying gratitude to the Dodge dealer, Brother Jack, for driving me down here and looking after me and chauffeuring me around. Brother Jack, we got one more trip to take. I mean, you ain't forsook me, have you? I mean, I ain't got to make other arrangements to get back to the airport, have I, Jack? I mean, I want to go in that vehicle, got that Ram up on the front. Ooh, you know, you talking about a man what's over married. You ever seen a Dodge dealer's wife? It's just like a buffalo nickel walking around with a silver dollar. I mean, it's awful. And I want to tell you something else that I did today. I ain't trying to show out, impress you. But this could be a first. This could be a first. And I'm not trying to show you what a nice fella I am. I'm just making a report to you. When I got to the motel today, a law officer come to see me and said the jury that was sequestered and shut up from the world and had been that way for several weeks request that I come and visit with them. I said, well, is it legal? He said, yeah, we've discussed it with the law. And if you don't discuss law, you can go in there and visit with them. And, brother, they have been isolated from the world. It sure would be nice, Mr. Clower, if you could just go visit with them, because there's no way they can go to the show. I said, well, I respect people that love this country enough to serve on the jury and take part in elections. You tell them if it's all right with the KCLE, the radio station, and the folks that brought me to town, I'll put on my show clothes, my red suit and my red breeches and my white ostrich boots and my ruffled shirt, and I'll come over at 6 o'clock and stand in the middle of the room and do them a show. And I did. And I've never seen a more smiling, enthusiastic bunch of folks glad to see an old country boy as they was me. And I took one of my scratch pads in there. It's got a coon head on it. It said Jerry Clower's Coon Tracks. And I wrote each one of them a little note before I left. And I done got a good look at some of them. Them old boys that's married to them missing them too. But everything was good. There's 4 policemen in there with me. And I'll never be the same after coming to Cleburne, Texas. A man said I was going to be invited back. He's done announced this. I'll just write a memorandum to my manager and tell him if we can work it out. Next year, we'll inform MCA Records that we just going to record my album after this one live in Cleburne, Texas. And we'll just do it here next year. And if we can... I've been doing one a year for 12 years now, and I'm fixing to cut my next one on February the 26th. So see you about a year from now would be... I am convinced there's just one place where there ain't no laughter, and that's in hell. And I have made arrangements to miss hell. So ha, ha, ha. I won't never have to be nowhere where some folks ain't laughing. If you know of anybody that don't believe in laughing and they're walking through life with a hump in their back and their lips poosed out and they ain't gonna laugh at nothing, you tell them to go home and look in the mirror and see what all us other folks been laughing at all these many years. Thank you. God bless you. Woo!